Chapter 300 Blood Curse. Humph. As our senior, you have no need to humiliate us in this way. If you have any methods to torture us with, just use them. The tall, skinny second brother of the 5 friends from Mang Mountain suddenly yelled at Han Li. He did not seem to be afraid that his life hung in Han Li's hands. This greatly shocked the other 3. In their hearts, this second eldest brother was someone who would think before acting. He was not an impulsive person. The 30-year-old youth, who felt that Han Li seemed somewhat familiar, thought for a moment. He suddenly seemed to recall something and immediately turned towards the tall, skinny man, yelling at him with anger and fright, "Second brother, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to purposefully enrage this senior and cause him to kill all of us in his anger?" As soon as this sentence left his mouth, even Han Li was slightly shocked, not to mention the dark-faced elder and the young woman. He had no idea why this youth would say these things. In an instant, the second brother's face became incomparably pale and didn't say anything to defend himself. "Fourth brother, you're mad. How could second brother want us to die?" When the young woman heard this, she angrily defended the tall, thin man. Then the woman turned her face toward the dark-faced old man to say something. However, she truly hadn't thought the old man would look so gloomy. "Second brother, is it because third sister still remains in their grasp that you thought to have everyone die so that third sister may live?" The dark-faced old man coldly asked. "Forgive me, eldest brother, but you of all people should know his methods." From the hidden meaning behind his words, third sister will be certain to suffer 100 torments under his hand and live a life worse than death. It would be better to have one soul fly away and be scattered than to suffer that fate. The thin, tall second brother eventually explained with a face of shame. When the young woman heard this, her face became incomparably pale. Her lips moved several times, but no words were able to come out. "Humph, even if third sister is your Tao companion, you actually have the nerve to use our 3 lives in exchange for her own?" The 30-year-old youth resentfully yelled at the second brother. "Second brother, although fourth brother speaks somewhat bluntly, he is not without reason. When we swore our oaths as sworn siblings that year, we promised that we would all live and die together. But now for your selfish ideas, you wanted to deliberately kill everyone. This is unjustifiable." The dark-faced old man's voice was filled with disappointment. "Correct. I wanted everyone to die, but what other method do I have? My own flesh and blood is within third sister's stomach. I can't have my Li clan become extinct here. Otherwise, who else would take the initiative to seek death? A wretched life is preferable to a good death." As his expression alternated between red and white, the thin, tall man couldn't help but yell this with gripped fists. These words immediately caused the old man and the young woman to be slightly stunned and reveal shock. For a moment, they actually didn't know what to say. The woman had her mouth wide open with an expression of complete shock. "Are you all finished? If you are, then I will speak." Han Li, who had been detachedly observing from the start, suddenly said this in a cold voice. When they heard this, the 3 were immediately startled, and they suddenly recalled that the one who was actually in charge of their lives was actually the Foundation establishment cultivator before them. Their resentment immediately disappeared without a trace, and they once again looked at each other in dismay. "I don't care if you are all seeking death or if you're putting on a play. I only want information on those behind the scenes. If you truly want to die, you will only be able to do so after you tell me information. Did you still think that you had control over your life and death?" Han Li's emotionless words caused the 4's complexions to greatly change. "We don't know much of what you want. Furthermore, we have a blood curse restriction on our bodies. We aren't able to leak any important affairs to outsiders, else we would immediately activate the restriction and our hearts would rupture." The dark-faced old man gritted his teeth and then said this. He seemed to have already given up. "Blood curse? That's a bit interesting. Let me inspect it." Han Li grew very curious and said this with some interest. When the dark-faced old man heard this, his spirit slightly shook. After some hesitation, he took the initiative to walk forward and extend his arm, holding on to a thread of hope. He had hopes that Han Li would be able to remove the calamity hidden within him. However, he felt these hopes weren't very likely. Those who put the blood curse on them were extraordinarily confident that no cultivator with a blood curse would divulge their secrets. Those who divulged secrets, regardless of whether it was deliberate or not, would die on the spot. At this moment, Han Li grabbed his wrist and slowly circulated spiritual power through the old man's body. At this moment, his expression changed and became incomparably respectful. The other 3 of the 5 friends of Meng Mountain stared at the two with great attention. They hoped this expert Han Li would truly be able to remove the blood curse. After the time it took to make a cup of tea, Han Li let go of the old man's hand and lowered his head in contemplation. After a short moment, he raised his head and asked the old man with an unchanged expression, "When they laid the curse on you, did they chant any strange incantations or say some strange words?" Han Li's question caused the 4 to all reveal an appearance of shock mixed with a trace of happiness. They said a few strange words we didn't understand. It seemed as if the incantation came from some sort of ancient dialect. We're certain we've never heard those words before. Also, it was a Foundation establishment cultivator who laid the curse on us. Without waiting for the dark-faced old man to respond, the thin man excitedly replied first. Furthermore, after they finished these words, they took a bowl of some unknown black blood and put a few peculiar pattern on all our arms. It is incapable of being washed off. The old man promptly added on. He then exposed his entire arm, revealing a strange black and indistinct symbol. After Han Li stepped forward and took a careful look, he nodded his head. Then he again lowered his head and thought. Not long after, Han Li suddenly raised his head and mysteriously smiled toward them, saying, "I was right. It seems I figured out what this blood curse is. Are Senior's words true?" The dark-faced old man said, trembling. The other 3 didn't dare to believe Han Li's words. This blood curse was like a sharp blade at their necks. They had no choice but to follow the orders they were given. If Han Li could truly remove the great danger that resided within their hearts, they would be able to recover their freedom and wouldn't need to obey their captors any further. This so-called blood curse is actually a kind of oral curse. What created the restriction should be that strange incantation. It has absolutely nothing to do with the black blood mark drawn on your upper arm. That was only a deception. Han Li indifferently explained. It appeared as if he was greatly prepared. However, he inwardly sighed from the fluke. Fortunately, back when he was looking for information on the greater displacement medallion, he had come across this oral curse technique in a very peculiar book. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known the slightest thing about it. Is it possible for Senior to remove the curse? The young woman couldn't help but ask. I don't know. Han Li's cold reply caused everyone's heart to drop. The wild happiness they previously revealed was instantly deflated. What is the meaning of Senior's words? The dark-faced old man hastily wore a smile and carefully asked this. At this moment, with the curse removal lying in Han Li's hands, he didn't dare to offend Han Li in the slightest. There are 2 methods for removing an oral curse. One method is by knowing the curse's dispel chant. So long as I have the chant in my hands, I can read it aloud with spiritual power and safely break it. The other method is to use my spiritual awareness to enter your spiritual awareness sea and forcefully wipe away traces of the oral curse. This method requires the spiritual awareness of the one removing it to be greater than the one who cast it. In this way, the imprint can be removed. But if I fail, the oral curse will be triggered. You should clearly know what would happen afterwards. Han Li wrinkled his brow and said this harshly. What? It can activate on its own? The young woman couldn't help but cry out. The person who placed the curse on them had used a living person to demonstrate what would happen after the blood curse was activated. That scene she witnessed, seeing that person spit out chunks of his heart in a miserable fashion, was still fresh in her memory. It caused her to feel fear from the mere mention of the blood curse. The others' faces were also unsightly. How could they possibly gamble with their lives? Han Li looked at them and then coldly laughed. When he thought to say something, the thin and tall second brother bravely raised his head and said, "Senior, please remove my curse. The same person put blood curses on all of us. If you can remove mine, then you are certain to remove all the others as well." These words caused the other three to open their eyes in surprise and blankly look at him. "Second brother, what are you doing? This is far too dangerous." After the woman regained her bearing, she hastily persuaded them with anxiety.